All right, welcome everybody. You're here, I'm assuming, for the debate between Peggy Doolin Baker and Abe Wainsgard. Did I pronounce that right? Butcher. My name's Ann Ladd. I'm just one of many transition team volunteers who put effort into organizing this event. And there's so many of them, we decided not to name names, but just know there's a big group of people that got involved in organizing this. It's not just me. And the team went to great lengths to make sure that these debates were as fair and impartial as possible. And to that end, we are really happy to have Jared Lloyd as our moderator tonight. Jared's been a journalist. He's got more than 20 years of experience as a journalist here in Utah. His background includes print, radio, and television, and he's currently the managing editor at Northern Utah's Standard Examiner, which is obviously located down in Ogden. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jared and let him ask the questions that he drafted.
Thank you, Ann. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight. This is the fourth debate that I've gotten to be involved in. We did two last night and we did one earlier this evening. And can I just say that it has been an absolute pleasure for me to get a chance to come up here to talk about these issues, to learn about what's going on here in the Ogden Valley area with Ogden Valley City and the incorporation. And it's fascinating. It's been so fun to see the passion, the number of people who care about what's going on in this area, and just learn a little bit more. It's not an area that I'm super familiar with. I've been up here to visit, but learning about all of the details has been just a joy for me. And I'm excited to be here tonight with Peggy and Abe from District 2, to get a chance to hear their vision and let them discuss some of the issues and challenges the new city is going to face. I'm going to describe once again the format of the debate, just so you know what to expect. We're going to start out with an opening statement from each of our candidates, and then following each of them getting an opening statement, we're going to alternate questions. And for the first 8 questions or so, we're going to give them each a chance to respond, about a minute and a half. And then they'll also have a chance to add a rebuttal or add anything that they want to, in a second, in case something comes to mind that they want to address in addition to what they said in their initial response. Once we get through those questions, then we'll ask a series of short answer questions. Each candidate will just have a chance to answer the question, and then we'll move on to the other question without any rebuttal. We'll get through as many of those as we can. And then at the conclusion of those questions, each candidate will have a few minutes to make a closing statement, one final chance to express whatever they want you guys to know about them and about the candidacy and about their views of where Ogden Valley City is going. Now, I have come up with all of the questions, but I couldn't have done it without the help of Ogden Valley residents. A lot of you submitted questions and ideas, and so I tried to take those and incorporate them in my questions. So thank you for being involved and helping come up with the questions that we're going to present to our candidates this evening. Also, one other thing I wanted to mention, that we ask you in the audience to refrain from clapping or otherwise interrupting the speakers. This is their opportunity to tell you how they see the issues, and the more information that they can share with you, the more informed you will be as a voter. So just, we're not clapping after everything. Let's keep them having the time to address the issues. So without any further ado, let's get started. We did a random coin flip to decide who was going to go first, and Peggy was the winner, so she gets to start with the first opening statement. So Peggy, you've got a couple minutes. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and let's get started.
Thank you. Good evening. Is my mic on? Oh, wonderful. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for moderating and the transition team for hosting. And I am really grateful we are here tonight instead of you guys being on bleachers. This is a little more comfortable, so I hope you enjoy this evening and our debate. As he said, I'm Peggy. In the way of introduction, I've lived in Nordic for 40 years. I retired after 36 years in education, 30 of them with Ogden City Schools. And I remember driving the canyon home after the long, hard days, and with every mile, the stress just melting off. I still pause at the top of the canyon and have that same sense of awe that I had then when I see our beautiful valley. We have a special place, and I am running to keep this place special. Being retired, I do have time, passion, and the ability to continue the work that the transition team has done this past year. It has been amazing. Over 100 volunteers, countless hours they have put in to getting the candidates prepared. After the August primary, the candidates have been working together with the transition team leads to learn about setting up municipal services, getting contracts ready. It has been an amazing experience. It has been a Herculean effort on their part this past year, all to get the candidates prepared and ready for our city to be successful. So I am just so thankful to the transition team for all the work they've done. Because no matter what happens on November 4th, the candidates who are elected will be ready to make that transition, with the goal being as seamless as possible for the residents. So as my role as a principal, I have to stop there. I'll come back to you in a minute.
We'll address a lot of the stuff in the questions, but thank you, Peggy, for the opening and the introduction. But we'll get a lot of, you'll also have the chance with the closing statement to add anything more as well. So Abe, let's turn it over to you for a couple minutes for introduction and opening statement.
My name's Abe Wainscott. I grew up here in the valley. We had a dairy farm until I was in high school. We still keep farming. I've worked for municipalities the last 21 and a half years. With my current employer, 18 and a half. I've learned a lot about how cities work from the inside of a very successful city. I think that brings a unique viewpoint to the table that, frankly, it's probably none of other candidates have. I originally was not for incorporation and was quite upset when it passed. I can see the pros and cons of it now. It's here, so I'm here to try to help as best I can to make this thing work. It's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be easy. We're going to be in survival mode for probably years, but it can work. There's enough good people that are running that we can make this work. And I think I bring a lot to the table from a unique viewpoint that can really help the city out. I plowed snow for 26 seasons. I've been a public works inspector for 9.5 years. I worked with developers. I fought with developers. I could bore you to death about water and roads and stop signs, fire hydrants and everything else that most people don't think about what a city has to think about. I mean, we've got 100 miles of roads. If we had to replace that 100 miles of roads today with the price of asphalt from down below not being trucked up here, we'd be around 26 million. Like, we need to keep that in mind. Like, that's the biggest thing we're going to own once we become a city, is those roads. So we're going to need to preserve and maintain and make those things last. I know all about rejuvenators and all, like, that's what I do. But I'm out of time. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Abe. Let's go ahead and start with a question, and then this is probably going to go, you get the first response to this question, and it's actually something you've already started addressing with your opening statement. But I'm going to start with some broader questions, and whoever wins the election will obviously play an important role in setting the tone for the new city. So what I want to ask is, what are your top 3 priorities if you are elected to get this thing going, from right off the bat? So Abe, you get to start on this one.
Top 3 priorities. We wouldn't be here if we were happy with how the development is going. Got to get a handle on that. We've got to get ordinances in place. The development's coming. We can't stop it. We've got to control it and make it something we can live with and hopefully be happy with. We've got to survive. Like, we have very little money. I mean, we've all heard about it. We just do. We've got to be in survival mode. There's things we can do to help with that, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. And hopefully Weber County can work with us and help us, because we really need them. We need them a lot more than they need us. And then we need to preserve the agriculture fill. Maybe this is a personal point coming out, but that's something that we have that we're slowly losing, that hopefully we can preserve that and make it last a long, long time. But obviously, number one, maybe survival. Like it's going to be a tall order. Like we're going to be in survival mode for a long, long years and years and years. Everybody's going to want trails and parks and all these neat things, and that's not going to be feasible for quite a while. Like for us not to be taxed out of this place and have this work, it's going to take a lot of envision from a lot of people that have got a lot of experience in this. And I think that's something that everybody who lives up here needs. Like we can't run off income tax like we can, or not income tax, property tax. I'm out.
Abe, it's okay. You're going to have a minute to continue or add anything further here in just a second, but let's turn the time over to Peggy, give you a chance to address what you view as the top 3 priorities.
I would like to take it in 2 strands. We have top priorities in survival things. I agree with it. We have to have our police force ready. We have to have our roads being plowed. We have to have information systems out. But we also have to have municipal services set up. We need to have our online portal, our digital town hall, you've heard it called, that has the opportunity for folks to have input, to get permits, to keep all of those structures running. So as I see it, it's not just 1 3 top priorities. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think our priorities have to come out in different ways. And we have to have a seamless transition for our residents, and we can do that. So I'm looking forward to working hard to make that happen.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy. Abe, you have a minute to continue or add anything in addition to what you had to say just about the priorities and what needs to happen.
So she's right. Digital porters stuff got to happen. We've been going to these transition meetings for a long time. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of people behind the scenes on the transition teams working on that kind of stuff. I think it's doing pretty well and pretty close to happening. The stuff that hasn't happened or isn't as close to happening is the public works side. Who's going to plow the roads? Who's going to put up a stop sign or 2 in the morning when he gets ran over? Like stuff like that. Nobody's thinking of that is a lot further away from happening than the portals and that kind of stuff. That stuff's probably a lot closer. So, hopefully we can get working with Weber County or whoever's going to do it and get something to happen, because that winter is coming fast. And hopefully we can do it without shutting down the divide and some of these rumors that we've heard. So I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Peggy, another minute to add anything further that you want to add on priorities.
Yes, I do believe that we would be more successful working with Weber County. They have all of the trucks in place. They have the drivers. They know our roads. Like Abe said, 100 miles of roads, 4 miles of dirt roads. They know our area. So I would love to be able to work with Weber County. Unfortunately, they don't want to chat with us right now about that. So to get the RFP in, I hope we can get it into them, which an RFP is a request for proposal. So we can send them our needs and they would send us the price, the cost. So we would want to get that into them sooner than November 5th. They said on November 5th, they talked to us, but we're hoping we can get it in before then, because as it was said last night in the mayor meeting, it could be 22 days after November 5th when our city is running. So we really need to start these conversations, and I hope it's with the county. That would be our seamless transition. So we're going to work hard to see if we can make that happen.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy. So Peggy, you're going to address the next question first. And this one's a little bit more specific, but still kind of broad. I want you I'm going to ask about District 2. And what do you believe that the biggest challenge facing District 2 residents is? And what does the new city need to do to address it? So kind of 2 parts there. But what's the biggest challenge for District 2 specifically? And what does the city need to do to address it?
District 2 is unusual because it is covers a lot of territory and different communities. So it starts at the three-way stop in Liberty, as you know, and hugs the mountain all the way around Pineview, across the dam, and all the way to almost Trappers. So there's a variety of folks there and a variety of needs. A lot of the local businesses are in District 2 over in Eden. And talking with them, they have their concerns and their issues. The neighborhoods in Nordic are concerned about the small village areas and the development that's happening over there with 800 short-term rentals going in a neighborhood of 300. So they have a whole separate issue over there. I'm trying to get with the folks over in the Snow Basin area and hopefully learn more about their needs and their concerns over there. I'm assuming it's development, traffic, water, same similar issues that we face in Nordic. So with that, it covers a lot of area. And it's really development, water, I should say first. Development follows.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Peggy. Abe, I'm going to turn that same question over to you. Biggest challenge facing District 2, and what's the city need to do to address it?
So she said we're a long, weird, screwy little district.
Thank you, I drew it.
Thanks. Appreciate it. But I don't know that it's a whole lot different in our district than it is the whole valley. Like, development's leading the league. And on the north end, the water's a lot bigger deal than it is on the south end. Water is a big deal. That's what I do for a living, is water. So we got to protect it and keep it in the city instead of sending it, more of it, down to Ogden or up to Snow Basin or out of the city. We need to protect the water that we have from the get-go, and we need to get ordinances drafted to protect the development too. Like, we didn't move up here to see rooftops. Like, it just makes me sick. Like, we want to look out over this beautiful valley and not just see the tops of roofs. So in my opinion, that's probably the biggest thing that's facing the whole valley, not just District 2. And she's right, there we do have a business and a commercial zone there on the north side that could be a big asset to the new city. So we need to work and massage that and hopefully make it something better. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Peggy, another minute to add anything that you want to add or address any of the other aspects of the question specifically for District 2?
Yes, in District 2 over there, we have one of the small village areas in Nordic. We also have two others very close, Old Town Eden, New Town Eden, and one proposed for Liberty. So we have the majority of the density over in the, what direction is that, did you say? North end of the valley. So, that's a concern. And we have to look at balancing that out with the rest of the development in the valley. How we do that is going to be input from residents. What people want, what people need. Are there commercial areas that we want to keep in the small town and the small village areas? And we need to define those small village areas a little bit better so we know what to expect when it comes around to those being built.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Abe, one more minute. If you have anything else you want to add with regards to District 2 specifically, or what the city needs to do?
I'll take advantage of my minute. Not necessarily District 2. Well, let's talk about roads for a minute longer. I started talking about how much it would cost to replace them if we had to. What's kind of, if you think of a road like an engine of a car, like, do you change your oil on the engine or your car, or do you just drive it till it dies? And that's kind of how we got to think of these roads. Ideally, a road should have a treatment put on it every 5 years. They haven't been, and it's not Weaver County's fault. They don't have the money to do it. But we need to get to a place where we can do that. We can there's zillions of different types of treatments. We need to get the right treatment on the right road in the right place and get that road to last as long as it can before we have to start chipping away at that $26 million to replace all these things. And that's like District 2, the whole valley, like all our 100 miles of roads. We need to make them last as long as they can. And I think that's going to be a huge part of our financial success.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Don't put the mic away too quick because you get the next question. So, let's talk about leadership and administration. So, both of those things are going to be clearly important as the city gets going. So tell me about what skills and experience, you've addressed a little bit of this, but let's talk about it specifically. What skills and experience do you bring that make you qualified for this position?
So as I said, I've worked for municipalities for 21 and a half years. I've worked for a variety of leadership in mayors, councils, city managers, public works directors. I've learned a lot of pros and cons from all of them. And I've tried to take the pros from all of them, I learned from them, and the cons, kind of develop my own unique leadership skill that I can put to the crews working under me now. Hopefully I do a pretty good job of it. The city manager we have now, I think, is probably the best I've ever seen. He does a really good job. The biggest thing about leadership is communication and camaraderie. Like, if you don't have those two things, you're sunk to start with. Like, if you got the people under you bickering and fighting, like, nothing's going to happen. And without communication, nothing's going to happen either. So I think those two things are probably the biggest key to leadership. I'm a lot younger than a lot of the other candidates. I probably haven't seen as much as they have, but I'll try to take the experience I do have and spin it on the positive side and come up with the best product that I can.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Hey, same question. What skills and experience do you bring that would be, that people should know about that you'll bring to the position?
In my 36 years in education, I started as a classroom teacher. I worked in special education with students with behavior disorders, and then went into administration, and then went to the district office and worked as a director of special ed for Auckland City Schools. And in all of those positions, I've had to learn to work with a variety of agencies, other teachers, administrators, district personnel, and it is a collaborative model that I like. I like listening to everyone's input, and then we make decisions and move forward, and then we evaluate, and we constantly have rubrics that we evaluate ourselves on. So I think that moving into a city structure, I see a lot of similarities. As an administrator, I had to juggle 15 things at the same time, and as a city council person, I assume, will be juggling 15 things at the same time. And I was available to work on any kind of district emergency. I was part of the crisis response team for the district. We had gas leaks. We had neighborhoods that unfortunately had a shooting or other incidences that would require. So we came and we took the situation and worked with everybody in it, students, parents, teachers. So I've had a lot of experience working with groups and bringing groups together to form a consensus and to move forward with a goal in mind.
Thank you, Peggy. Let me ask Abe another minute to address anything with regards to skills or experience.
She mentioned crisis. I think that's a good one. I think I've dealt with a lot of crisis and most of it. I mean, we dug up and fixed 65 water leaks last year. Most of them probably not during business hours. Same with plowing snow. Like, anytime there's a problem in the city, it's the public works team that gets called to take care of it. Doesn't matter if it's a tree in the road, a backed up drain, signs down, water leaks, flooding people's houses. People are out of water, hopefully never. But it's been close a few times. I mean, high school dealt with that just not that long ago. But that's all stuff that I've dealt with the last 21 and a half years, is dealing with those points of crisis. Not as much on the administrative side, but more of the boots on the ground, go out and get it taken care of. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of contractors. I've got a lot of friends, both at the county and on the private sector, that if I need to call upon, I think we respond.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Peggy, anything else you want to add on the skills experience question?
Yes, I did want to add also that what my communication skills, I believe, are a strength. And is that the question? Strength or differentiation? None of this differentiates me, but one of the strengths I have, I think that I can bring to the table, is open, respectful communication. No matter what the problem, no matter the situation, it can be handled with respect talking to each other, listening, and then responding. Same thing with the county. We certainly hope we have an opportunity to talk to them and to make sure they understand that we want to work with them for our mutual benefit, for the county's benefit and for ours. So that was something that I would like an opportunity to try.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy. Don't get too comfortable because now it's your turn. So we're gonna go into a big question, which is of course budgeting. We've got to address it. That's something that the city's going to have to address because running a city takes money. How do you think that the city needs to address its income needs? And in other words, we got to address the always scary term taxes. So how do you talk about your view of income and taxes and how the city needs to approach those things?
I agree with Abe when he said survival. The way we looked at our first numbers, we don't have real solid numbers yet. We're using projections, so we really don't have the budget. But what we do know is the revenue stream is $4.5 to $5 million. And we don't quite know what our services are going to cost us yet. So we're getting out these requests for proposals. They're coming back in, and then we can budget. We want to make sure we have the essential services in place for you. We want to make sure that the snow removal is an essential service. And we want to make sure that permits and other city activities that you expect from the county are there for you and ready for you. So we have to make sure our money's going to the right places, the priorities that the folks want, that the people of the city want. Along with the budget, we have to come back to that when I get my next minute. Oh, I'm good.
Okay, yeah, you can address it in just a minute. We'll come right back to you here, Peggy. But thank you for that response. Abe, another minute to address anything regarding. Well, actually, this is your chance to start with talking about budgeting and taxes and income.
We're poor. Like, there's no question about it. Like, we don't know we have been getting requests for proposals of what stuff's going to cost. We don't know the exact number of what's coming in, but what we do know is we don't have enough money. So there are things that we can do to help offset that. And we're all looking into that and putting our heads together and hopefully can come up with some extra money to help offset that. As far as taxes go, any of these candidates can tell you in our meetings, we have been promised that we would not have to raise taxes for this. And I am adamant that will not happen. They've talked about putting a tax on our gas bill. They've talked about putting taxes on our power bill. They've talked about putting a tax on our phone bill that a lot of cities do. And I've told these guys, like, you cannot do that. That is not okay. Like, we were told as residents we would not raise our taxes to make that happen. And that is something I will stand behind to the bitter end. And so hopefully some of these other things we can juggle around. We might have to go without some things that maybe we kind of want, but we don't have to have. But yeah, raising taxes is not an option. And I will fight for that for 4 years if I get elected.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Peggy, back to you. Chance to continue what you were saying and finish up with you've got another minute.
I lost that thought, but I do agree with Abe on the taxes because the taxes are important, and that's a critical piece that everybody is talking about. We can't do those taxes that he mentioned on gas and electricity because those really hurt the lower income folks or folks like me on fixed incomes, retired folks. So we don't want to do that. We do have an opportunity to negotiate because I do believe the county still has some of the money that when we did incorporation, they told us there was about maybe $2.5 to $3 million that was from the year past. If we can negotiate with them to get some of that money, because they don't have to give it to us, but they could. They could also help us with a zero interest loan that would help us save a tremendous amount of money. Again, if we could negotiate with them to get those, we'd be in a little better position than being totally poor. We would have some money to fund some of our top priorities.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. One more minute to address taxes and income.
Yeah, so that money she's talking about that the county has, that's impact fee money. Impact fees are a special, you just can't spend that money on whatever. It's collected for a certain thing and it has to be spent on that certain thing. And the county doesn't have to give it to us. They can spend it up at Causey and parts of the valley that aren't in our city. In fact, I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of that money is already being spent on that Powder Mountain Road extension. I think that was an impact fee eligible road. Um, and they're pretty mad about this whole lawsuit thing. If they want to, they can just not spend it, and in 5 years, it reverts back to whoever paid it. So we could end up with some of it, but as far as using it to plow roads and doing the stuff that we need, we can't spend it for that. If it's collected for a trail, we can spend it on that trail that was on the list when it was collected. And that gets tricky too, because if we have $75,000 to spend on this trail, and it's going to cost $2.5 million to build, like we got to get pretty creative to be able to spend that $75,000. Like we can do it, we can do it with engineering or some other stuff like that, but it's not a save all. Will it help? Sure. Will it help us get these essentials done? Probably not.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Abe, you get the next question to start. So we're going to switch gears from income and taxes to address spending. And it's kind of a two-part question here. How should the city spend the money that it brings in? And how are you going to make sure residents understand how the money's being spent so they're informed on what the city's doing?
Every one of the candidates that are successful in this election are going to have a big bullseye on them, because the residents aren't going to understand this. And whoever makes it, we're probably going to have a lot of people pretty pissed off at us. And that's okay, because somebody's got to do it. And we're the ones willing to step up with that bullseye on us and try to do it. We got to spend as little as possible for as long as we can. Like, it goes back to that whole survival mode. Yeah, we've got to have our roads plowed. We've got to have some of these essential functions set in place. I mean, you got to be able to get a building permit, have your building inspected, and like there's stuff that has to happen. And that's probably all we're going to have for a while. And that's all anybody should expect. Like, expecting anything more than that's being unrealistic. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Peggy, your turn to address how the city's going to spend the taxes that it brings in, and then also making sure, to the best of your ability, that residents, have the, can see what the city's trying to do.
Right. We're going to have to get some gap finance funding. We're going to have to get some money to get started. So we're going to have to borrow that money. If the county will not lend it to us on a zero interest loan. So we will have some funds to cover these services. One of the things I think that's going to be essential for us is to get our IT program up and running. That's going to help us communicate with the residents. The residents are going to be able to communicate with us. It'll be a circular process, so you know what's happening. You know where we are spending the money, and we can be transparent about that. So I think that's critical. We're also going to need to contract, not to hire, because we don't want to hire people, because that involves insurances and benefits. We want to contract with people. But we were going to need a financial person to track all this money. We're going to need a land use attorney to help us with some of these issues. So we're going to need some key pieces to put into place to continue this seamless transition.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy. Abe, you've got a minute to add anything else to this topic?
So when we talk about finances, the other thing we need to watch out for is bonds. I mean, some gap financing bond sure has got to happen. But what we don't want to do is get into a rhythm of paying one bond with another bond. Like a bond's a loan. When we're managing the finances for our family, we're not taking out loans and then taking out more loans to pay the other loans. Like, that's nothing successful is going to be around like that. So we need to be very careful when they start talking about bonds, because all that is a loan. They're usually low interest, but they're still loans, still got to be paid back. So, I mean, we can get the gap finance loan, get off and running and do what we need to do, but then we kind of need to tone it down on the whole bond end of things.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Peggy, anything further on spending?
I agree with that. I don't want to get caught up in that unnecessarily. hopefully after this first year, we'll start collecting those revenues. And in the meantime, we're going to be making sure we're maximizing all of the revenues we have coming into us from sales tax. You know, that may be one of the areas that we may be able to raise 0.25% is sales tax, because the tourists that come in help us balance that out a little bit. It's not all on the residents as a tax, so we get to spread that one out. So we need to maximize a lot of other things before we think about bonds, and I'm in complete agreement with that. Transient room tax, making sure everyone's paying a business license that has a business. We have something like 400 businesses in the valley, and that's incredible. You know, that's thrilling. So we need to support those businesses with our money and get that sales tax staying here so we can generate more funds. Is something we can do as residents.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Now we're going to turn to something we've already addressed, which is clearly one of the biggest issues that's being talked about with regards to this incorporation. That's growth, the growth in the area. And so my question that I want to ask for this is, how do you intend to balance the differing views that, you know, potentially conflicting views of maintaining quality of life, of private property rights, and of adequate growth?
I think that's why we're here, incorporated and running to start our own city, because this has to balance with, we are all in favor of property rights. But as I'm learning with the classes and the videos from the League of Cities and Towns, is that property rights are balanced with community rights. And so far, it feels like we've been out of balance. It's always been the developer has a property right to do what they want with their property. Well, I don't see that as one side heavier. I see that as a balance. Property rights, important, absolutely. I'm a property owner, my little acre with my husband, and that's important to us. But we have to balance that with the community. And we have to balance it with our resources. So our water resource is going to drive development. So we have to, and I believe there's a water question.
It's part of the growth questions. Yeah,
Oh, it's part of this one?
Yeah. Well,
Ooh, I better talk fast.
Today was.
I have 30 seconds to talk about our water issues in the valley. But our water issues are so important because, again, I think I hear a different story from the county. They say we're a bathtub, and we hear a different story from our residents and our water companies. We have 83 water companies in this valley. We need to get common understanding around all these studies that have been done. We have expert hydrologists that live in the valley. We need to tap into the expertise, and water should drive development.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Able to give you a chance to address this, you know, the challenge of balancing these different ideals of private property rights, of maintaining quality of life, and adequate growth.
So as part of this bullseye we have on us, if a developer meets the criteria, he has the zoning and he has everything, we can't stop it from developing. We just can't say, nope, we don't like that. You can't do that. Like, you can't. They've got bigger, stronger, better attorneys than we're going to have, and they're going to win every time. So the residents need to be understanding of that. As long as they meet the criteria, that ground's going to develop. We might be able to choose how it develops a little bit. And what gets put there, but it's going to happen. As far as the water side of things, I could go on for hours about that. Like the county, they don't have, Weber Basin controls the water. Like all the water in this whole area is Weber Basin's. It doesn't have anything to do with us as a city. It doesn't have anything to do with Weber County. Like Weber Basin controls it. There is a fair amount of water here. A lot of it's getting used for secondary, not culinary. The farmers own the rights, like that sort of thing. Do we want open space? If we want open space, we got to have that water. Like, they're not going to farm a field if they don't have water for it. So if we wanted to start taking that water and turning it into drinking water for houses, not only are we losing the ground that the houses are going on, but we're going to lose that farm ground they took the water from too. So there's two sides to that story. And I'm out of time.
Well, you have a minute. You'll have a minute in just a second here to
I'll take
let me give Peggy the chance to respond first, but you'll have a second. So Peggy, go ahead. Anything further on this issue? I know it's a big one. So
Yes, it is. And 2 points that I think are important. One, we got to make sure right out of the gate, our zoning is in line with what our priorities are as a city. We have to make sure we have the zoning in place because as Abe said, it is what's going to drive if that developer can do something on that land. So zoning is critical and should be addressed immediately. The second thing is Weber County has said that they're not responsible for the water. And that's why we have over 400 homes that have been approved and no water yet. So I would recommend to a committee and to hash out really quickly so we can get going on this is we need to have proof of water and sewer before the developer can come in and start working on a development on their property, but they have to have water and sewer in place prior. Because all of the ones I've sat through in the meetings, they say, one said Nordic Valley Water, and I contacted the Nordic Valley Water manager, and he said, no, we don't. So we really have to make sure what they're putting on those applications is accurate.
okay, thank you, Peggy. Hey, back to you. 1 more minute to address this.
Every subdivision that's approved in every city across the state of Utah has to have a sign off for every utility. Like, so her idea, it is a good idea, but it's already in place. Like, if you don't have water, you can't develop. If you don't have power, you're not going to develop. If you don't have gas, you're not going to develop. Like, if you can't sewer, you're not going to develop. Like, this isn't a new thing. This isn't reinventing the wheel. Like, it's already in place. And if Nordic Valley Water said, yeah, we can give you water, and they'll sign that paper saying that, like, that has nothing to do with the city or the county. Like, they had the water. And then if Nordic Valley was the one that was wrong, that has nothing to do with the city. That's on the water company. The other part of water that we got to think of is like our septic water. Back in the 60s, the USGS did a study and they didn't want the nitrates to hit 1 part per million up here in the valley. They wanted at 6.7 acres for a lot, and now we're at 3. We've already hit that. We've already hit the 1 part per million of our nitrates in the water. So that's another thing we need to be thinking about. Like, we're already there now.
Okay, thank you, Abe. This is also going to touch on something we've been talking about because the relationship with Weber County is one that is clearly been strained by various things over the in recent history and probably beyond that. So let's talk about it. How do you plan to work with the county as well as other state and state governments, other local cities? But obviously the county is one that a lot of people are concerned about because there's some conflict there. So Abe, you get to start on this one.
The county one's an easy one for me. I know a lot of people with the county have very good professional relationships with a lot of people with county and the engineering and the roads. As a candidate, I have not reached out to them. Like, I want to keep this separate, but I could pick up my phone right now and call a dozen people who work for these organizations, and especially the county. Like, I've worked with engineers, road guys. If I want a pothole filled on my road, I just shoot a text message out and it gets filled. Like, it's pretty nice. But I have a lot of good relationships already that if I was to be successful, I could use those to help maybe negotiate, even with Gage, like Gage Froer, like the Waynesgar farm and the Froer farm, we're neighbors. We have been since before my dad was born. Like, I have not reached out to Gage. I have not talked to him about this. I don't want that relationship to be strained because of this. But if I'm successful, then maybe we sit down and we say, hey, like, let's work something out here. But I have not reached out to any of these contacts that I have at this point until I see what happens. But at a time, and it's coming soon, like, if I get elected, those conversations will happen.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Peggy, same question. Strained relationships, but how do you work it out with Weber County and even other state and local governments that you might need to have relationships with?
Absolutely, but before we get to that, may I get the number for the pothole guy? I would love to be able to call someone. Well, actually, I'd love them to pave my road first and then do the piles. But anyway, the question was how to resolve conflicts.
Yeah, with the Weaver County, how do you work with Weaver County and also other city and state governments?
Yeah, I have been open to work with Weber County. I am sorry they are upset about this. I think they're upset about the incorporation. People keep saying they're upset about the lawsuit, and I believe that. But I want them to understand that that was the due process rights of people to follow that lawsuit. And I would like the county to be able to say for their employees, for our city, let's get together. Let's talk about what's good. Let's get a win-win, because that's what we have to do. In my experience in schools, from working with students with behavior disorders up through working with large groups of parents and teachers, we've had to work through conflicts. We don't always see things eye to eye. So we've had to be able to talk about it. But it's honest communication about what your needs are, your intent is, respectful conversations about how we're going to get there. So I would like the opportunity to continue to work with Weaver County, because it would be the easiest, the quickest way to get our services provided.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Abe, anything further you want to add about working with other governments?
I talked about Weaver County a little bit. I'm in the water industry. As a good part of my job now. Also, I've worked with a lot of people with Weber Basin, state, UDOT. I have family members that work there, all these other cities. But yeah, that's about it. Like, I know a lot of people, a lot of cities, a lot of water places. If I needed to turn up some favors, I'm sure will be good.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Peggy, anything further to address as far as working with other governments?
Oh, I was going to respond to something else, but
That's fine.
That's
Yeah, no, that's just fine.
oh, is that okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. About the water, I would like to talk to you a little bit more about that, Abe, because when I go to the meetings and they say Weber Basin Water Conservancy is the one who gives water, I understand that. I agree with that. What I was saying is flip the process a little bit so we're not building or approving buildings contingent on finding water. So I think that strings along developers, and it's later in the process. I was thinking that we could move that up earlier in the process and come to resolution about water prior to having those applications put in. So that's what I meant by that, and I don't know Gabe's thoughts on that, but I'd love to hear them.
Okay, and that's something that we can touch on with some of the other questions that we'll address. But let me move on to this one because it kind of touched a little bit on the lawsuit issue. A lot of residents have expressed concern about conflicts of interest, and some of that could be legal with lawsuits. It could be professional with business connections or personal with individual relationships. So I'm going to ask a two-part question. Peggy, you get to start on this one. First one is very straightforward. Do you currently have any conflicts of interest that voters should know about? And the second one is if you run into a conflict of interest, how do you plan on approaching it if you're elected?
I currently do not know of a conflict of interest. My husband and I own our home. We have no other business in the valley. We have no other land in the valley. We're not connected with developers or anything that I think would be a conflict with the city council. The second part is how would I address it? And honestly, I think if there is any doubt in my mind, my history has been to ask if there's a question of would this interfere with me making a decision or would this be an inappropriate connection, then I would ask the council members, what are your thoughts? What happens here? And we have ethics that we will sign, I'm sure, when we go into office, and that will lay out a lot of the details. But if I'm ever in doubt, I check and I ask and I find out, and then from there I make the appropriate action. If it is inappropriate, then I need to decide what I need to do to resolve it or address it. So very transparent, very open about what's happening.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy. Abe, same question. Any conflicts of interest voters should know about? And also, if you did run into a conflict of interest, how would you address it?
our family does on a farm. So if that's a conflict of interest, then we got one. Pretty small farm. But yeah, that's all I can think of. And if there was a time when it came up where there was a conflict of interest, the appropriate thing to do is just to step back and not let the others handle it. Like it doesn't matter if it's me or anybody else. Like that's how you should go about handling something like that. If you got vested interest in something, you should not be voting on it. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I do have a lot of relationships with a lot of developers. I don't know that any of them develop up here in the valley, and a lot of contractors. Just from my profession, I've worked with it and dealt with a lot of them, but just on some of them friendly terms. But I wouldn't say it's a conflict of interest in any means. But yeah. I still got 30 seconds left, so I think I'll take that and talk about the water issue that Peggy brought up. The schematic process is the very first process in a plan review, and that's basically goes out to every utility, city, everybody, and they just ask them, can you serve this? So I don't think anybody's been strung along saying, hey, maybe you can get water. Like, these water companies have signed off and said, yes, we can serve them, or that never would have made it past the schematic phase.
Anything else you wanted to add on either the conflict of interest topic or what Abe just was addressing?
Just a quick question, and I hope this is the time for it. But we had a home up in the bridges that didn't have water, that was built already. Is that the same kind of process? Because the water wasn't there, the homeowner, and I happen to know this because I was getting signatures for incorporation, and she came up and said, my home is built, but there's no water. I can't live in it. And that shouldn't happen for anybody. I mean, a homeowner, the developer, their city. So I need to get a handle on our water, our permitting, what's happening. So that's...
Abe, do you want to address that with your minute? I mean, it sounded like you wrapped up the other stuff, so.
Probably in that situation, like I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it sounds like to me they were probably assessed a water right, and then it was that home's responsibility to drill a well. And as I've got a sister that lived over there in the Nordic area, and it is not easy to drill a well. Drilling a well is like a shot in the dark. You might get a gusher, you might get nothing. And especially over there on that northern end of the valley, there's places where it's really hard to drill a well and get a successful well. And then you get over on the south end and you barely got to go in the ground and there's a ton of water. So that was probably what happened there. They had a paper water right, but as far as get a flowing well, it was probably difficult for them. There's other things you can do. You can attach that water right to another well somewhere else and pipe it there. A lot of times these water companies will take that paper water right but then it may be onto you to run the pipeline up there. Usually there is some options, but that's probably what happened.
Thank you.
All right, well, we kind of veered off from the original topic there, but that's okay because these are things that obviously matter to you guys. I'm gonna switch from the rebuttal phase of the debate and just go to the short answers. So each of you will get a chance to address the answer, and then we'll move on. And we're going to start talking about by talking about the general plan, which is obviously something that's important, with regards to growth. And so, Abe, you get to start on this one. Should the city adopt the existing general plan or create a new one, and why?
I don't think anybody's okay with adopting the existing one. I think part of the reason we're doing this is so we can have our own say over things. And part of that is going to be making our own general plan, how we want it. And it's older, like general plans, they don't last forever. Eventually, stuff changes, stuff happens, and you need to kind of tweak them and move them around and make them to what fits the valley, what fits our city. So yeah, I would think we tweak it and move it around it and make it what we want it. If we were just going to keep things how they were, why won't we just leave it to the county? Let them keep doing it. But I don't think we want that. I think everybody as a whole would kind of like to tweak it and move it and and make it how we want it.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. Peggy, same question. The general plan, keep it, change it, how blow it up. I don't know. What are your opinions of the general plan?
I want to keep the heart of it. I want to keep the vision. I want to keep many of the goals. I like the work that was done in 2016. They really had teams come together, got tremendous input from residents in the valley. Updated it in 19, and it's right, it's old, and it needs to be updated with that. Abe was correct. But we need to look at what's in it. The heart of it is beautiful. The heart of it says development should complement, not overwhelm the character of the valley. And I think that is beautiful. And I would like to keep that and get it into law so we could write ordinances that support that. That's what's going to save us, is if we have the general plan updated. Terms have to be defined. Small village area has to be defined better. I had a different interpretation of small village area than the county did, obviously, because I wasn't thinking 867 units.
Right.
It was just not in my small picture. So there's many pieces we need to fix and take out things that don't apply now because we have the canyon and other areas. We have to focus on our city boundaries, but we have to create the ordinances that drive the vision of that plan. And that's what's going to be different for us, Abe, I think, with the county, is those ordinances that are going to make this a reality. The county didn't have, oh, sorry.
Well,
Welcome.
you're actually going into the next question, because the general plan is kind of the broad view. But my next question was specifically about ordinances and zoning. Keep maintaining current ones versus changing up the current zones. So you could probably continue, because that's some of the stuff you were addressing, but that's what I was going to ask.
Right. Thank
Zoning
you.
and ordinances.
Thank you. The county did not have to follow the county plan, and I think that's where we fell short. They never codify it and put it into any kind of weight or law, I guess. So they never really had the thought to follow it. But every time we went to a meeting, they'd say, this development follows a general plan without any evidence. So there was no evidence to support that. So I think that we need to update it. We need to define certain pieces in it. We have to have some tough conversations about TDRs, but other than that, we can really look at the heart of what's in there. Some of the zones that we talked, Abe mentioned that about development. And if they're in the right zone, he's right. They can do that if the zone allows it. So we have to look at the zones. And I believe that we need to roll over most of them for time being to start, to have things in place. So people have the same rights they did when they go to bed before the election as they do after the election. But some of the zones I think we could take out. Manufacturing zone, I think the mobile home park zone, are two examples of what we could take out. We have a mobile home park, one in the valley, and it could be grandfathered in, but we don't need to be having more of those. There's a gravel zone we can talk about. That's another one that I would like to have serious conversation about. So I think some of those zones we need to look at and update it, but this has to be done right away. We really have to do this out of the gate as we're doing the services. That's that other end, another side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Abe, let me ask you the same question, just more about your views on zoning, keeping or changing existing zones and ordinances. How do you view that?
Zoning's huge. Like, what we adopt as a zone is going to reflect on what happens. So that's one thing we got to get right from the get-go. I mean, we always say that as one thing we got to get right, but this might be a very thoughtful list. And then, like, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but we may have to keep some of those. We may have to have a zone for gravel. We may have to have a zone for trailers. And if we don't want them, I mean, other cities, they stick them up on the top of an hour where nothing's ever going to happen anyway. And then let it ride. So I know I worked for a city that's done that. The gravel zone, I mean, nobody wants a gravel pit by their house, but this city is massive. Like, they could stick one up in that mountain, and there's probably not a house in the city that could see it. So we may want to consider doing, at least having this zone something like that. Maybe they don't want to do it, but they have the opportunity to, and that especially with the canyon restricting now to 50 foot and smaller vehicles, which is a good thing, but it's going to drastically increase the cost of that, which is going to be spread out to even the city. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Once again, you're going to be the next on deck here for the next question. This is another one we've already mentioned in the debate tonight, but I know it's something that's on a lot of residents' minds, and that's short-term rentals. So how do you evaluate the benefits and challenges of short-term rentals? Because it's clearly something that are on a lot of people's minds.
I kind of like them. Like, I've got one kitty corner from my house. I didn't even know it was there till one of the guys that was renting walked over and had a chat with me. So I think if they're done right, they can be a good thing. I'm really a big proponent of a user-owned short-term rental. So, like, in your backyard, the owner lives there on the same property. I don't like a corporation be able to come in and just put a whole bunch up, because I think that's where you get your problems. But we have about 1,600 of them up here in the valley now. We've talked about things that we've been talking about and can happen to help offset our financial shortfalls. This is a big one. Like, if we start taxing, they're already paying a ton of money a night, so we throw these taxes on there that should be on there. First of all, we got to identify them, get them licensed, and then start taxing them. And that is one of the biggest things we can do to create some revenue to help with our shortfalls that we already have. I'm big on property rights, and I think there's a lot of people that could put a short-term rental in their basement, or especially on these larger lots back there. And if there's a problem, they're going to be the first ones to know about it. If it's noisy, I'm closest. It's going to be bugging me first. So it might not be a popular opinion, but I do think it can be a big advantage for us and not a disadvantage if it's managed right.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Peggy, same question about short-term rentals. How do you balance the benefits and challenges of it?
Well, we currently have an ordinance in the county for short-term rentals, and Jan Fulmer has worked with a team of people for a long time to get this ordinance written. So I say, because have so many things to do in this first couple of months, this should be a discussion for maybe March or April, when we can talk about it and get people's inputs and look at the ordinance that's there. This may be one of those ordinances we roll over and stay with. The issue, I think, that many people have is the enforcement of the short-term rentals right now. So we got to make sure that's in place. I agree with Dave. It may be a financial advantageous to tax and make sure we have business licenses. There's zones created for short-term rentals, and those should be the ones where they operate. And then we really need to look at the owner-operated ones, because I agree, for some folks, they might help make the payments if they can have a renter in there, or a ski instructor that comes for the winter can get a room in the house to help make the payments. But those are discussions. I don't know if they need to be immediate right now to start the city. My urgency isn't there. I would like to see it in a few months be on the agenda for us to talk about, think about, and talk about, and then we can address it as a community.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. The next question we've kind of touched on already, because it was related to snow removal and services, and I want to ask it in this form. What do you believe that the city council, how should the city council address service concerns as they come up? Because they will. Somebody will be disappointed their road isn't plowed or their road isn't maintained. So how should the city council get involved in addressing any service issues that the city will probably start facing from the get-go? Peggy, you get to start on this one.
First, we need to know about them. So we have to have a system for folks to report and to talk about. So that's where that digital town hall, that I've heard it called, should be. So residents can report. Then we need to have a way for us to see what the priorities are, to create priorities for our city. What are they, and what is coming next? Because their concern may be on the list and it's going to be addressed. So I really think that communication with everybody is the key. We also, in this this website should have real-time information on construction. How many of us drove down the road and were stopped twice on the way here trying to figure out what's going on? We should have real-time things on that website. What's happening with roads, with potholes, with snow removal. So residents are informed so we can get the word out and get the word in. And I think if we can do that, we're going to be in a better position to address some of those concerns quickly.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Abe, same question. Just how should the city council be involved in addressing service concerns as they come up and making sure the residents have those addressed?
I think off the bat, anybody expecting anything more than what they've already had is probably unrealistic. But I do think going forward, this is probably one of the biggest benefits we could have as a city is improving the service on stuff. I can come off the 20-hour shift from plowing snow and get home and my road hasn't been plowed yet. But you know what? That's okay. Because I understand that the hills get plowed first, the main roads get plowed first. I live on a flat, little road that not a lot of people live on. And I understand those are dead last on their priority list. And they should be. And that's probably not going to change. But going forward, like garbage is a huge one. The city I work for, we don't dump any of the garbage, but we manage the cans. We'll buy the cans. When you want one, we take it out for you. And they can generate enough money through that garbage. And it's in a fund where you can't take that money out of garbage. Like, that would be illegal, but they can get recycling for like $3 a can. Like, there is stuff like that we can do to increase the services up here. Garbage, snow removal. Probably if we want to increase the level of snow removal, we'll probably have to transition to having our home crews plow. I was a second full-time employee for Hooper City and was working there when they transitioned from Weber County to their own services. So there will be a time when that's feasible and it could be a benefit.
Okay, thank you, Abe. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna kind of go to another question that I've heard a lot about, and it's one that I'm sure you guys are both prepared to address, and that's the name. A lot of people are interested in the name and what the Ogden Valley City, as it's incorporated, what the name might be. So my question is simply this: how do you think the naming should be addressed, and do you have any personal preference? And Abe, you get to start on this one.
All right. So everybody's got an opinion on this, and it obviously needs to go to a vote. Like, there's no 5 people up here that should be making that decision. Everybody can throw in their ideas. We'll put it to a vote, and half the people are going to be mad. Maybe not quite half. There'll be a little more than half that'll be happy. The rest of them are going to be mad, and that's how it'll be. I kind of like the Ogden Valley. Like, when I grew up, if somebody from Liberty came over to our side of the valley, my dad would be like, "What you doing on our side of the valley? Get back over there." Like, and that's just kind of how it was. It was like 3 separate Huntsville, even Liberty, were their own areas, and now we're one. So we need to come up with a name that'll unify everybody, that everybody can be proud of, and hopefully most people can like. And it'll be a tall task, but it'll be a fun one to see develop. As far as names, I don't have any to really throw into the hat, but I think there's enough people up here and enough creative, smart people that will want to do something great.
Okay, thank you, Abe. Peggy, same question. Name of the new, the new entity, and how do you think it should be addressed? And do you have any personal preference?
I agree with Abe. It's going to be a fun one. This is going to be something. But I think it started already. We were the candidates, some of us were in the library meeting, and a woman came in and who had helped name Snowcrest and said, "I'd like to get started. I'd like to start getting input. I'd like to start asking people what they want to have for the name." So she was at the booth. I apologize, I forgot her name, but she was at the booth at the Balloon Fest, and she was gathering information from people who were there. I saw it in the paper again. This is an opportunity. This is our first chance to come together as a city and to all put our input in, to keep working it. We're going to have to go through 5 iterations of it to try to figure out and keep narrowing it down to try to get the name. But if we keep publishing what the top contenders are based on numbers, that may be one way to go about it. A vote would be nice, but I don't know. I don't wait till next year, to be honest. Because if you're thinking an official ballot, I don't know. Maybe a library ballot at Huntsville Library, here at the library, we could do a ballot. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for everybody to work together and keep working on it until we come up with a name for our new city. I don't have a preference, but I'm getting lots of calls. Somebody's going to move out if we name it Ogden Valley. Somebody's going to be very upset if we don't. So there is a range of people up here. So it'll be interesting to see what bubbles to the top. But we keep talking about it and we keep looking at our options and weighing in. It may not be your first choice. It may be your second that surfaces, but that's okay.
Thank you, Peggy. So we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask one more question and then turn it over to you guys for your closing statements. So my last question for you, it's a vision-based question. What do you view as the main roles that you would take on if you are elected as a city councilman? What is your vision of what that role entails? So people can understand what you look at as being your main jobs if you are elected to the position. So Peggy, you get to start for this question. Vision for the role of being part of the new city council.
Well, I see my role as a facilitator of services, a facilitator of information, a facilitator for education. And with that, we will move forward. We will be successful. So I believe we've been working together and it has been an amazing experience. But as we work together, we've kind of went into smaller subgroups and taken over different areas. So I've been working with the IT group, and then as a large group, we've been getting updates on all the other groups. So I know what we're requiring for an IT proposal to send out to companies to get back what it would cost us to have them provide these services for us. So I see us as managing services and maybe taking a lane, maybe taking IT, public works, strengths, lead with your strengths, and facilitating customer service within that lane.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Abe, same question. How do you view the role of the city council position that you're running for?
I think the Canada pool we have right now is very strong in leadership, contract negotiation, maybe ordinances. I think there's a lot of them that's their strengths. My strengths would be probably on the other end of things. It'd probably be more on your roads and your snow and your garbage and your signs, your drainage, that sort of thing. I'm a little unique maybe in the Canada pool that's left that way. So maybe I foresee myself maybe not being in charge of it, maybe taking the lead on some of those things. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be one to actually draft an ordinance, but I sure like to have input on what goes into it. So, more along the lines of that stuff.
Okay. Thank you, Abe. All right. So that's going to be all of my questions for this evening. So we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you two for one final closing statement. Anything you want to say to the voters, to the residents of the area? A chance to present your message. 3 minutes is, I believe, our time. So take the time all the time you want. So Abe, up to you.
Everything I think I said I probably have said that I was going to say. I come with 21 and a half years working for cities, inspecting, working with developers, building some relationships with them, fighting with some of them. In the end, trying to make sure that the city ended up with a quality product. Again, I know a ton about roads, a ton about asphalt. When you think of asphalt, you just think of asphalt. When I think of asphalt, I think, well, which kind of asphalt? How much wraps it? What kind of oils? Like that sort of stuff. Like when you think of a storm drain pipe, you think, okay, there's a pipe. I'm thinking, well, is it ADS? Is it RCP? What kind of reinforcement is it? Like, is it teacup? Is it not? Like, that's what I think of. That's kind of where I stand out with maybe the rest of these guys. kind of think a different way. Like, they're all really good candidates. Like, we have a really good group of candidates left, but my strength is going to be my experience in that sort of stuff. When you think of a snowplow truck, like, or you think of a 10-wheeler with a wing, does it have drop axles? You know, can we hook it to a pup and go get salt with it? When you think of road salt, everybody thinks of road salt. I'm like, how many different kinds of road salt do you think there is? I mean, we use 3 at the city I work with. Like, you got your white salt, your red salt, your blue salt. They all do different things at different temperatures and melt ice. Your red salt's going to melt it at a lot lower temperature, but it comes from Redmond and southern Utah. It's maybe a little cheaper to buy and more expensive to get here. Like, I can just go on and on about that sort of stuff, and that's what makes me stand out from these other candidates, is that sort of stuff. Like, your roads, your salt, your pipes, your signs. There's another thing, MUTCD. Like, MUTCD is like the Bible for road signs. Everybody should know that and know it to a T. If your sign's 1/8 of an inch out of compliance, and Salt Lake City can tell you, well, somebody runs that stop sign and somebody gets killed, that costs the city millions and millions of dollars because your sign was 1/8 of an inch out of compliance. Like, that's the type of experience that I bring to the table. Somebody's got to be thinking about it. If it's not me, they got to find somebody else to do it, or we're going to be paying for it.
Thank you, Abe. Peggy, chance for you to make a closing statement.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight and staying engaged in this process. I believe District 2 needs a representative that's available, can plan carefully, and communicate openly and respectfully. I will be that person. I will fight to protect what keeps us here, the peace, the quiet, and the amazing beauty of our valley. I would like to thank you because this has been an incredible experience for me to work with all these incredible people, to be part of this effort. When I think about it, 1.5 years ago, I was collecting signatures for the incorporation. 1 year ago in November, we got incorporated. And that was amazing. And through this year, hundreds of people have worked together to make this city successful and to help us as candidates be successful. That was this is a historic moment. To live through that, to see us so cooperatively working together for the benefit of the city. So to me, this has been an incredibly collaborative experience, and I hope that is the design for our future, that we continue to work this way together. And I also hope you'll vote for me on November 4th.
Thank you, Peggy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Abe and Peggy for thank you both for figuring your house tonight. Appreciate this. Step out with you. I also want to thank the transition team volunteers helping us with timing, helping us with video. We appreciate everybody being here this evening and being involved. It's been a pleasure for me to be here, and thank you again, and have a great night.